Welcome to the tape group today. Welcome to a new meeting of the world is new. So thank you so much for joining today. We're looking at the chapter number 10 of the book, and the world is new. And so today Joel speaks to us in many ways, and one of them will be the meditation, but it's not coming from him apparently. It's like it is a meditation coming from the one he's talking about, or he mentions in the book, and that is Myrtle Fillmore, and the founder of Unity Church. But she wrote a beautiful, gave us a beautiful prayer that came to me when I was looking up what she stands for and all this. And so the thing that happened was that this beautiful Rosary Prayer came to me that I love to use in this meeting as a meditation. So we're going to do that later, but that is one of the ones that he mentions. So someone else that he mentions in chapter 10 is Mary Baker Eddy. Like, of course he does that in I think all of his books, probably, as great examples of spiritual healing. And so that's great. So I love to have companions, it's like bright companions on this path. So it's great to invite them into our meetings together, to discover what they exactly bring in as an idea, as something that is a total gift to you if you recognize what they're actually sharing. Now that's a nice challenge in the sense, or it is an invitation to discover different language, but which is actually telling you the same and can resonate with you deeply. So the title of the chapter that we're looking at today is interesting, and that is the prayer of understanding. Now that almost seems like a contradiction, because for praying you don't necessarily need understanding. To experience peace you don't need understanding, or to experience total joy you don't need to understand it, but it is definitely an experience. So we're going to find out what Joel actually means when he shares it in this way that he does. And they chose a title, and that title is that is there for a reason. So we're going to see what that means. So that's part of what we do today. And of course we have our talk that we listen to, a part of a talk, and 321B I think it was, and it has everything to do with prayer. So that's why I want to listen to it with you as a part of the tape that we're listening to. So it's so the same language. You will see it's so the same language. And of course Joel represents this whole package of, infinite way ideas. The ideas that lead to the experience called the infinite way. So of course that is almost everywhere the same. You see it change a little bit through the years. So at the end of his sojourn here, you see he starts to come more into a teaching mode, or an instruction for you as an upcoming practitioner, an upcoming teacher, in the sense of bringing this teaching to life, bringing it to expression in your very own way, but based on the fundamentals given by Jesus, in fact, but by Joel in the infinite way, with the principles of the infinite way. So we will meet some of that today. Basically, what we're seeing the most today is that you see that the level of which we're actually, where we come in touch with in this, is really that it's a soul level. In fact, it's like as if the soul is coming into your awareness, and this soul is in constant union with God. It cannot be separated. So you could say like that's the sane part of your consciousness. The part that you think you are is the is the insane part. And if you have any doubts about that, please contact me after the meeting. Yeah, okay. So yeah, so the part that is in constant communication deeply from within, that's why we connect with. It's on a soul level. Now this, in fact, comes back in the chapter a lot. So Joel talks about this soul level, and also Myrtle in the prayer will also share that. It's like there's an immediate reference to the soul level. Like this soul is already perfect. It's radiating throughout the universe, and it's you. So it's not some other thing. So it's you. And to allow that to come fully in your awareness, you just need to see the rest for what it is and see it disappear, basically. And that is very well possible. That's why we do this. That's why there's a possibility. And it's called the infinite way. It's called awakening to the truth of who you are. And that's very well possible. So all the things of time, all the considerations of time, all the considerations about body, about guilt and sin are in fact the part that have no relationship with the God that created you. And that's, not something you're gonna accept. And most of us don't accept it right away. That takes a moment. Like seems to be a process in which you see step by step what is and what isn't. And this is a beautiful journey, and we're in the middle of it. So, let's see. The one part is, of course, this. It's like when you become still, when you become relaxed into this moment, when you're not distracted, when you're not responding to time-related matters, because that's really what it is. It's like you're not responding to time-related matters. Things become very quiet, and you recognize that if you don't respond to it, there actually is nothing going on. You just thought there was something happening, and it isn't. Now this we use too in the meditation. So to calm down, to come into a prayerful state of mind, you could say, is really what helps us to hear what is actually shared with us, literally coming from out of time, or whatever term you want to use for that, but in fact from the essence from within, the essence from within your own being. Now that becomes more and more clear, and that is so incredible. So it takes care of a lot of things. You have no idea. It's like this afternoon it suddenly occurred to me to see that, in fact, the question came up. Somebody was having a call. It's like, so what are you most afraid of? It's like, well, that I might die, that I say, okay, so dying. So this dying, what do you need to die? If you look at it like conceptually, what do you need to die? Well, at least you need a body, and you need time, because you cannot die right now, right? So you need time, and you need a body. All of which is not you. All of which is in fact what you start to see that is not you. And time-related matters seem to have no importance whatsoever. They are actually meaningless occurrences. It takes a moment before you see that, but you will see that. And you see them disappear just because they have no reality. And the same with the body. If you have no ideas about the body anymore, the body disappears. So it's like that has nothing to do with what God created you to be. Now this is really beautiful to remember. It's like, okay, so what do I need to die? A body and time. Well, those two things are all temporal. It have they have no relationship to the God within. Wonderful, great. So that's been taken away, you could say. That has no reason for you to stay busy with it. No, you can allow yourself to lose interest in it. Really great. Now this is really an essential step in the awakening. But like I said, we're quieting down. We're going to come into a prayerful modus, and we're going to do the Rosary meditation prayer. And the Rosary sounds like an endless prayer with beads and all this that you let go through your hands. And in fact, you can do that. Why not? So I love it. I love this prayer, and I love it that it came to me in this chapter. Joel literally talks about her. And so that's why I included it in. So that's what we're going to share now. And Michelle was willing to recite it in French. So you will hear that too. The Rosary. The hours I've spent with Thee, dear Lord, are pearls of priceless worth to me. My soul, my being merged in sweet accord, in love for Thee, in love for Thee. Each hour a pearl, each pearl a prayer, binding Thy presence close to me. I only know that Thou art there, and I am lost in Thee. O glorious joys that thrill and bless, O vision sweet of love divine, my soul, its rapturous bliss, can ill express that Thou art mine, O Lord, that Thou art mine.
Les heures que j'ai passées avec toi, cher Seigneur, sont pour moi des perles d'une valeur inestimable. Mon âme, mon être se fondent dans un doux accord, dans l'amour pour toi, amoureux de toi. Chaque heure, une perle, chaque perle, une prière, liant ta présence près de moi. Je sais seulement que tu es là et que je suis perdu en toi. Ô glorieuse joie qui ravisse et bénisse. Ô vision douce d'amour divin. Mon âme, son bonheur ravissant, peut mal exprimer que tu es à moi, ô Seigneur, que tu es à moi.
All right, thank you so much for joining in the meditation. So we continue with the book, to start with the book, and I want to read something to you that is in the chapter, and it's very much to the point. So that's why I love to share it with you. Here it is. As long as I have a sense of a Joel, separate and apart from God, or you can fill in your own name, of course. So, as long as I have a sense of a Wim, separate and apart from God, I must turn within to that depth of me, that infinite, unseen part of me, which is God. And as I turn within, I hear it say to me, "Son, all that I have is yours." Okay, so as long as I have a sense of Joel, separate and apart from God, I must turn within to that depth of me, that infinite, unseen part of me, which is God. And as I do that, and as I open up for the experience of that, I hear it say to me, "Son, all that I have is yours. We are one. I am in you and you are in me. We're not two. We are one. That which you are thinking of as your outer self is only the tiny little visible part of the invisible me. Do not set up that little thing out there called Joel and let him worry about his own life, his own supply, and his own home. I will take care of that. Leave that with me. Take no thought for your life, what ye shall eat. That is my responsibility, the responsibility of the infinite unseen, which is the creative principle of all men. We are one. I am in you and you are in me. We're not two. There's no somebody out there. There's nobody telling you this. No. What is being shared here is coming from within you. You allow me to say this because we are one. You open yourself to this. You recognize that there's only one of us. There's nothing outside of me. No, so the recognition is so incredible because in fact you cannot have a conflict. With what would you have a conflict? Or thinking that some things can happen to someone and not happen to you, or vice versa. Like, no, this is all one thing. There's only one thing going on, and that's you in your consciousness. So that's really lovely. So there was one paragraph that I really love to share directly. Now I found also some expressions that I love to share with you. Let's make this a little bigger. All the good of an enduring and permanent nature that we ever attained is attained through the revelation of the soul within. Only the soul which is illumined finds peace, harmony and wholeness in this human experience. So it's like, okay, wait a minute, we sink immediately down into this soul level that I was talking about. So all the good of an enduring and permanent nature that we ever attained is attained through the revelation of the soul within. Like, this comes to you by revelation. So is that something that you can do? No, that is something that's going to be given to you. It's by revelation. You cannot reveal something to yourself. That's impossible. So this is coming from you to God. From God to you, sorry. This is coming from God to you. And the nature of revelation is an intense sense of happiness and joy. Like something is made clear in your consciousness. Literally, it fills your consciousness. It is coming to life in your consciousness. And you could say, like, suddenly the soul starts to sing within you. So only the soul which is illumined finds peace, harmony and wholeness. Now I would keep it there. I would not have said in this human experience, because in fact this is not a human experience. So I don't know why Joel put it there. Like, only the soul which is illumined finds peace, harmony and wholeness. So that is a total experience of the truth of you. Does that have anything to do with your human experience? No, it does not. Does it affect the part of you that appears to be in a human experience? Yeah, it could be. It doesn't necessarily have to. Like, if I have an incredible revelation of the love of God, you could say, I always use this because it's so clear. It's like I use my personal experience. Of course, I cannot share what I experienced, but I can show you how that affected everything. It's like I'm on my way, traveling. Suddenly, I'm in the middle of a revelation in which I experience so much love of God that I literally appear to be like crying my heart out. Such deep experience, so beautiful, so incredible. But me being in an airport, having to go to a certain gate, no idea how to get there because I'm in the middle of this. Like this is overflowing, overwhelming me. So what does that have to do with my human experience? Well, absolutely nothing. It was actually really hard to navigate to any kind of gate because I could care less where I was. Now this is just an example. That's why I use it. And we're talking here about moments, real moments that are coming to you. And these real moments actually make you see that the human experience that you had a moment ago absolutely has no meaning. Like it has no meaning. Sorry, I cannot make more of that. So in my case, when I traveled further, I had no idea where I was ending up because I literally felt as if I, say, started a completely new life with a total new setup, like nothing was the same anymore. Now this can happen to you anywhere. It's like revelations don't come to you always in the right place, you could say, as you would expect. No, you're happy that you get them and you're willing to receive them wherever they are and wherever they come to you, of course. Like it's an intense contact with your Creator, pouring His love down to you, and you're actually like having this shower of light. Now, how is that going to influence my human experience? I don't know. Like it became even more impossible than ever before. So, and which is perfectly all right. I have no problem with it. So I just don't know why Joel put it there. But or maybe the editor did, I don't know. But don't be disturbed by it. So the great thing is, of course, the revelation of the soul within. Only the soul, which is illumined, finds peace, harmony, and wholeness because it's literally what it is. It just not just experiences it, but it is that. And of course, this is hard to understand, but it is definitely possible to experience. Now we come to the point pretty quickly that Joel asks you a couple of questions. So what is true prayer? What is God? Where is God? What is the function of God? These are human questions. Like human questions, as a human being, you wonder what is true prayer. You wonder what is God? Where is God? And what is the function of God? You ask these questions when you are a human being. In fact, you ask these questions if you don't know who you are. If you have, in fact, not realized your true identity, then these questions make total sense and you can walk around with them for a long time trying to look for the answers. And you do. So you want to know what God is. You want to know, and you've looked the whole world to find answers. And suddenly someone is reminding you, like I'm doing right now. Somebody is reminding you, like Joel is doing in the book. He's reminding you of the following. It's like, oh, you want to answer to the question? Oh, okay. So don't look for it. Don't try to, give an answer to it. No words. No, wait. And Joel tells you, in fact, to go within and to listen. Ask that question. Go within and listen. It will be revealed to you. Like if you would formulate it, what God is, where God is, and all this, and thinking that you're right, you just created for yourself an impossibility to experience it. And so, sorry for your intellectual gifts and all that, It is not useful here. It's absolutely in the way. So, but the alternative is right here. So you can ask and receive an answer. You can totally expect an answer, and it will come to you. So that's really lovely. So I think Joel tells you something like this, and Joel says immediately, this is the thing that you want to keep in mind. In fact, reveal thyself, Father. Speak, Father, thy servant heareth. Right? So there's not a matter of figuring it out. It's not a matter of finding the answer to these questions, but it's literally a great start to let things be revealed to you, because that will convince you in a way that is not just gratifying, you could say, for your intellect. No, not at all. It is fulfilling from within. It gives you a sense of peace by knowing this, by having this revealed to you. Asking that our own soul is revealed, be brought forth and enlarged in our conscious awareness. So it's like asking that our own soul is revealed in our consciousness. Be brought forth and enlarged. Well, it's like the soul is full in itself. It doesn't need to be enlarged, but the soul is full in itself. Your experience of, fully aware of that in your consciousness will fill your consciousness, because it is literally like the Christ mind in you, being one with all, being one with the Father, being one with Spirit, perfectly creating with every aspect of creation. The nature of God, the first step in our spiritual experience. Still the human senses and listen. Be still and know that I am God. So we use these phrases, be still and know that I am God. Know ye not that I am God. Like the first step in our spiritual experience is to still the human senses. And they can be stilled by listening. See, and then the thing is, be still and know that I am God is not an activity, a mental activity in which you try to know what God is and try to imagine it or something. It's like, no, just make sure. Let it be revealed to you. Like there's no doing on your part in terms of knowing it. It is before you come to know this, you go through a couple of things in order, like you go through a couple of stages, a couple of, intense undoings of what you think you are, but what you are not. You cannot avoid that. So then it can be revealed to you, and you will enter into the realm of knowing, you could say. But that does not happen just like that. So there's something that happens before that. Be still and know that I'm God is also an invitation to a revelation. So always we come to that. Now, how can things be revealed to you? Well, not by your doing. Yeah. So as long as I think that I'm a Joel, or think that I'm a Wim, living on this earth in a limited frame of reference, I have no chance of actually coming into an experience of my wholeness. If I think I can do that or get to it, no, it's not possible. Simply as that. It's like, no, you cannot come to that with your capacity as a human being. No, not at all. If you have limited ideas about yourself, how could you possibly be shown the totality of you? You would not be able to receive that, because you're identifying with the part of your consciousness, you could say, exactly that part that isn't. And you think that you are that. So how could possibly wholeness be revealed to you? Of course there's such a thing as a miracle. Of course there's such a thing as there's something possible. There's a revelation possible that comes from God to you. And it has nothing to do with any kind of development or any kind of thing. No. Ask Saul. When he was sitting on the horse and being struck by lightning, suddenly he finds himself on the floor Or do you think he prepared his revelation? He got ready to kill more Christians, but not to receive the love of God. Did he receive the love of God? Yes, instantaneously. Did he start teaching the infinite way, you could say? Yes, absolutely. From day one. He never stopped doing so. He could not imagine what he had done. He had no idea. That wasn't him anymore. So the soul that he was before disappeared, literally. It had no, and what did it do? It seemed to have killed thousands of Christians. He seems to be this nasty guy from somewhere who is always terrorizing, always, hurting people, always doing these terrible things, and one flesh, and he is a different guy. He's climbs on his horseback to make his way into the world as the light of the world. So that's an instant revelation, you could say. He didn't do anything for that. So keep that in mind too. It's like that's a total miracle that happened. That's a total non-understandable thing. You see, understanding is not necessary to have things revealed to you. No, it's a matter of being open and asking for it. So, and of course, like there's a plan and it works perfectly. And it's not your plan. So it looks different than what you think that should happen in this moment. Also, say that's all essential. So yeah, it's great to have examples, extreme examples as Paul and Saul, seeing that is an actual occurrence that is not from some kind of icon 2,000 years ago. No, it can happen to you tomorrow or today or right now. No problem. The true sense of humility is not hidden one's face. The true sense of humility is not hiding one's face and saying, I am nothing. No, you don't have to do that. Like, that's not humility. I am nothing, to say that. It doesn't make sense. The true sense of humility recognizes God as infinite and supreme and realizes that God is pouring through and then gives all the credit and honor to it. Like, the true sense of humility recognizes God as the infinite and supreme and realizes that God is pouring through and then gives all credit and all honor to God. True prayer is the development of the soul. Here's the soul again. Like true prayer is the development of the soul. True prayer, the development of the soul in conscious awareness, in your conscious awareness. Like the soul is already perfect, but it is like you have to let that fill your consciousness. True prayer is reached when our soul rises to such great heights that it says, Father, forgive them, for they do not know what they do. Neither do I condemn thee. Go and sin no more. Well, that's divine love. True prayer is reached when our soul rises to such great heights. And say that you start to say, Father, forgive them. They do not know what they do. Like you're not attacking, you're not responding to anything. No, you recognize it for what it is. They do not know what they do. There's no condemnation in place. There's no condemnation necessary. No. That is divine love. God is the law of love. And we have to come into conscious oneness with that God or law of love in order to benefit by it. We are one with God, as we ourselves are the outlet of that divine love. That love that passes understanding, a love which is grace, gentleness and peace, and which is you and your realization of that. So we are one with God as we ourselves are the outlet for that divine love. that love which passes understanding, that love which is grace, gentleness, and peace. So you could say, like Joel's way into the subject, if you can say it like that. It's like Joel's angle in which he comes to this, to the prayer of understanding, is using the soul idea, the soul being in you, rising up in your awareness, in your consciousness, and in fact representing the love and the perfection in which you were created, and seeing that you are a whole part of that. So that is the outline of this, you could say. So the real practice then is then continuously, not by responding to situations, not by acting on situations, trying to fix situations, not by trying to be concerned with situations and all this. It's like all that you start to not do. You start to look at it with disinterest, you could say. Like you look at it, but it's like, it cannot fool me. I'm perceiving this, but it doesn't mean it's a reality. No, there's a different way that is given to us. So the only thing I can do is I want to get in touch with the truth of who I am by asking for the revelation for that, not thinking that I can contribute in any kind of way to that totality that already is. Like, no, that's not necessary. So in that, there's an incredible relaxation, in fact, that is being offered. This incredible relaxation is also like a beautiful cloud of love where you are a whole part of. Just like we saw in the prayer that we read. It's like, I melt into thee. I literally melt into the love of God. I am that. I'm this part of this puddle of love, of this puddle of love. And I cannot distinguish what is God and what is mine. But I know for sure that if I see something out there, that it has nothing to do with reality. If I see that something is not right there, and I think I need to approach it and twist and turn it and make it better, that I'm wasting my time. So that's a revolutionary message in the ears of a human being, for sure. So are you able to handle that? No, you're not. Is that confrontative? Yeah. Do you rather not hear this? Yes, absolutely. So why are we staying with this? Well, you know that you have this deep urge inside of you. You have this incredible calling that comes to the surface at times, where you feel so deeply that there's something completely different going on than you can possibly imagine, that you think that none of this can even like slightly compare with it. That's what you know, because you carry that with you in your consciousness somewhere. Now this is the part that you want to get completely in touch with and invite in to be your full experience. So that's exactly what Joel is offering you, in fact, too, and in his very own way. And yeah, let's listen to Joel. Since I'm talking about him, I have to look.
But doctors later decided that the right hand must be amputated to save her life. What became of those prayers? What was the use of them? Was that 10-year-old child so vicious, so bad, that prayers couldn't save her? Or was it that the millions who prayed for her were in no wise reaching God, and therefore could not receive an answer from God? Because you must remember that prayer, when it is correctly understood, does bring answers from God. If this were not true, you would have no Christian ministry, you would have no Christian teaching evolving from the Master, because he revealed that his mission was to do the will of his Father And the will of his Father was that the sick be healed, the dead be raised, the blind have their eyes opened, the deaf have their ears unstopped, the poor be fed. And all of this through prayer. And so we know that prayer, when it is correctly understood, brings forth an answer from God. But we also know that prayer as we understand it in the world today, with the exception of the few mystical teachings, those prayers are not bringing forth answers. Yes, we can also point to the 100,000 people who each year make the trek to Lourdes in Belgium, with prayers in their hearts and on their minds, and of whom we're told only 15 people of 100,000 receive their healing. What of those prayers then? They're worthless too. Now then, prayer isn't worthless. It is only the prayer that is taught in the world these days and for the last 1700 years, except in the mystical activities of the world. And that is perhaps one reason that a work like ours can never be organized. There never can be memberships. There is no use asking anyone to become a member of us or to make contributions to us, because they won't benefit by it. The only thing we have to offer is a teaching on the subject of prayer, and you can either accept it or reject it, and we could do nothing about it. No use joining us, no use contributing to us. That will not get you anything. The only thing that will bring anything worthwhile to you is if you are willing to learn the nature of prayer and then abide in prayer, praying without ceasing, until you find for yourself that prayers are answered. And then, of course, you can belong to any church you like, or any movement you like, or none at all if you like, because you're living your religious life within yourself. And still we will have nothing to offer you except what is being given to you through this work, or the writings, or the recordings, and that which is available to anyone who will want it. Prayer only becomes effective when you do not pray for anything. And that is the basic law of prayer. Anyone in this world can receive answers to prayer as long as they will release themselves from human desire for personal good or personal gain. In other words, it is trying to make a house of merchandise of God that interferes with prayer, asking for food for me, or food for you, or asking for clothing or housing, in spite of the Master's teaching that you shall not pray for what you shall eat, or what you shall drink, or wherewithal you shall be clothed, that you shall not take thought for things, that you shall not make a house of merchandise out of the temple of God. But when you pray, pray only that the kingdom of God be revealed to you. Pray only that the will of God be revealed to you. Pray only that God's grace reveal itself within you. And let that prayer result in whatever form of good is within the realm of spiritual grace. You will find, as Moses did, that if you pray the prayer of Emmanuel, that is, the recognition of God with us, that if you need a cloud by day and a pillar of fire by night, that's the way your prayer will be answered. You will not pray for a cloud by day and a pillar of fire by night, because you will not even know. Moses surely never knew that such a thing could exist as a cloud by day and a pillar of fire by night. All he knew was omnipresence, Emmanuel, God with us. And then let that take form as it will, and it took the form. Be assured that Moses had never heard of manna falling from the sky and had no way of knowing that it's possible to pray for such things. His prayer could only have been the realization of Emmanuel, God is with us. God is with man. Where I am, God is. Where God is, I am. Who can flee from the presence of God? If I mount up to heaven, thou art there. If I make my bed in hell, thou art there. If I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, thou art there. In other words, there is no way to escape God's presence, but the presence of God is never tangible in the experience of any individual except those who consciously abide in the Word and let the Word abide in them. If you do not abide in the Word, Christ Jesus says, and if you do not let this Word abide in you, you will be as a branch of a tree that is cut off and withereth. The 91st Psalm says that if you do not dwell in the secret place of the Most High, all of these evils of the earth can come nigh your dwelling place. Only those who dwell, who live in this secret, sacred word, omnipresence, Emmanuel, God with us. Where I am, God is. The place whereon thou standest is holy ground. Dwelling in that, not going to holy mountains, not going to the holy temple in Jerusalem, not believing that God is low here and God is low there, not believing that God is in a Hebrew synagogue or a Christian church or a Muslim mosque, but realizing that the kingdom of God is within you, whoever the you may be, and abiding in that. Prayer is answered in the form necessary to your experience of the moment. And if it is food or clothing or housing that is needed, it appears. In the experience of our good friend Rickenbacker in the Pacific, when food was needed, it came to him, whether the fish had to jump up out of the ocean into his boat because he didn't have a line and hook, whether the birds had to fly down and roost on his head because he didn't have a gun, whether fresh water had to flow from a clear sky. What difference does that make as long as Rickenbacker knew enough, and he was the only one in those boats who knew enough not to pray for food and rain. He was the only one who knew enough to sit there and realize God with us. Where I am, God is. I cannot escape from the love of God. Neither height nor depth, neither life nor death, neither principalities nor powers can separate me from the love and the life of God. Therefore, even out in the Pacific, God had to be. And so it is. Those who pray for safety and security are just laying up trouble for themselves. God has no safety and security to give. God has only himself to give. And those who pray this prayer, which has come down to us from time immemorial, those who pray this prayer, I seek not things, I seek not selfishness, I seek not for myself, I live only in the realization that where I am, God is. Emmanuel, God with us. Where I am, thou art. Son, God says, thou art ever with me, and all that I have is thine. Does that mean only at 42nd Street and Broadway or State and Madison? Of course not. Wherever we may be, heaven or hell or the valley of the shadow of death, Son, thou art ever with me, and all that I have is thine. You don't have to buy this. This is something that is, as Isaiah said, free, without money, without price. Take it home and live it. Yes, Jesus had a treasurer. They accepted gifts, and out of this undoubtedly paid their traveling expenses and their food and their clothing. They weren't selling truth, they were giving truth. And what came to them in the form of gratitude took care of their needs. It has been so all through the ages. Those who have engaged in a truly spiritual ministry had no need to sell it, because the truth itself is available and always has been available for mankind, and there always have been those willing to share of this world's goods so that the activity might be perpetuated. But please don't believe that truth or God or good is dependent on money. I have students write me every once in a while. They would like to be in a class, but they can't afford it. What do they think? That truth is dependent on their money? Or that they could be barred from God for lack of money? There is no one in a spiritual ministry thinking or working from such a standpoint. And so please believe this. Whatever grace of God you attain is going to be not because of what money you have to spend or what far places you can visit, but to whatever degree you can learn to pray without desiring something for yourself or another, except the remembrance of God's grace, that where I am, God is, and all that the Father hath is mine, and abiding in that and letting that perform its work. So it is. Seeking entrance to the spiritual path must always be not for the purpose of personal gain, not for the purpose of selfish motive of any kind, but only for the purpose of enlightenment. And this was given to us of old symbolically, so that we may know that this is the correct form of prayer. When entering the household of God, and you can only enter through prayer, do not try to enter the house of God, the household, the temple of God, selfishly, or for gain, or personal motives, but only for the reason of tabernacling with God, whom the Master says, knoweth that you have need of these things, and whose pleasure it is to give you the kingdom, as long as you don't seek them. Seek ye the kingdom of God. These things will be added unto you. And here you have a secret of prayer which has been lost for centuries and known and practiced only by members of the mystical, unorganized movements of the world. Wherever this becomes organized, remember that it loses its power because some mode of selfishness enters into the activity of organization. God is infinite. If you cannot accept that, you have no possible way of entering the spiritual life. God is infinite. And to be infinite, that means God must be all. Therefore, there could not be God and something beside. There could not be God and. There could not be God and safety, or God and protection, or God and food, or God and clothing. But we learn that God is the health of your countenance, not that God sends you health. And that's where so much of this praying goes astray. These millions of people who prayed for this girl were praying for something that God could not give, for God had no such thing to give. God, being infinite, had only God's own self, and none of these prayers were interested in God. They were interested only in what they thought God had to give. Ah, yes, let's use God as a means to getting health. Let God become our servant, in other words. Not we, God's servant. No, no, no. Let us use God. Now, God, send us health. Come, God, you know. You owe it to us. We've been good. We've tithed with you. We go to church on Sunday. Come, God. It's nonsense. It's nonsense to the enlightened. And for this reason, there can be no answer. And when you pray to God for safety or security, or when you pray to God for food or clothing or housing, and when you pray to God for something, you are praying amiss. But when you pray, Emmanuel, God with us, thy kingdom has come on earth as it is in heaven. Thy will be done on earth. Not my will, not my will. I am not directing you, God. I am not telling you, advising you, acquainting you. I am not trying to be greater than you, God, and let you know what little Susie Joe needs. No, God, in thy greatness, in thy all might, heaven is here and now. Where thou art is heaven, and where I am is heaven, for I am the Father of one. If I mount up to heaven, it's heaven. And if I make my bed in hell, it's heaven. And if I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, it's heaven. For God is here. And this whole earth is the footstool of God, the temple of God. And even your body is the temple of God. You need not pray for God to come to your body. And you need not pray for God to send health to your body. Pray the prayer of realization. Where thou art, I am. And where thou art, in thy presence is fullness of joy, is fulfillment. Where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is liberty. And pray that way. And then you'll find that whatever the human need, it will appear as the grace of God. It will appear as the presence of God. And then you would have to have the guilty feeling that you told God what you needed. That God didn't know. Realize that God is omniscience. The whole wisdom of this world. The psalmist said, thy understanding is infinite. Accept that. Accept that God's understanding is infinite, and let God express his infinite wisdom without any advice or guidance on your part or mine. And see what grace, harmony, beauty flows into your life when you open yourself for God. Not for things, just for God. And then let the things be added unto you. You see, do you not? This wisdom has been known from the earliest times, but it had as little circulation in ancient times as it has in modern times. And why? Because the nature of the human is, of course, limitation. Self, I, me, and mine. The three words that have destroyed the world. I, me, and mine. And you cannot expect the world to be any better. You cannot expect them to know how to pray until you have lifted them out of their humanhood into some measure of this spiritual consciousness, this transcendental consciousness. Then they can begin to perceive through spiritual intuition, through spiritual discernment, that God is ever present, that God is an ever-present help in all troubles, that God is here where I am. That, was it ever so plain? I am the bread, the meat, the wine, not I send it, not I give it. I am. God is the bread, the meat, the wine. God is the food. You may not believe it. You may not believe that God is the substance of the very food you eat. But although we have been teaching for more than 30 years that there is no such thing as matter per se, that which the world calls matter is really mind substance. But who has believed it until last month, when Dr. von Braun announced it? A great announcement in 1960, matter is mind. Of course, from now on, the world will begin to believe it, whereas heretofore, a few dozen thousand people accepted it and benefited by it. The rest of the world ignored it and ignored the benefits that come once you understand the meaning. There is no matter, there is only mind. And that which appears as matter is mind in tangible form, appearing as tangible form. The fruitage of that understanding will only dawn on you after you have meditated and pondered the statement for a long, long time, just as it will take the physical scientists many, many more years before they are able to benefit by Dr. von Braun's announcement. Now, in the same wise, the human cannot benefit by a teaching on the subject of prayer because it cannot accept it. The human, in their unillumined state, can think no further than, but I must have my rent on Saturday, so I'd better pray to God to have my rent on Saturday. Or, I can't even think about God unless this pain stops. I can't even study about God or pray about God until I have more time. Right now I have to work all day and sleep all night. But you see that with the first touch of spiritual illumination, that same individual finds that there is an hour in the morning before they usually got up, and there is another hour before they retire at night. And they also find they can do with an hour less of television or radio or movies. And so you find that whereas the human has no time, with the first touch of the Spirit, he discovers there are 24 hours in every day and in everybody's day, and that he wasn't using all of the 24 hours, and now he begins to find a little time. And so it is with that first touch of the Spirit, he begins to realize there's no use of waiting to get rid of this pain to find God. If I find God, the pain will disappear. There's no use of waiting until I get next Saturday's rent and then find God. If I find God, I will have next Saturday's rent. And so, only through a touch of spiritual grace does an individual begin to perceive that if and when I have God, I will have all that God is God to. That I will have all things as the added things. And it won't be dependent on anybody external to me. No one external to me can keep it from me. No one external to me need give it to me. I and the Father are one, and the Father says, Son, all that I have is thine by grace.
Thank you, Joel. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So that was a great talk. It fitted so well with the chapter, and you could see like even the same things he uses to express himself, the same ideas, with having experiences, having say the moment of revelation, and all this. So that's so lovely. All right, so we come to the end of this meeting. I'm going to play some music and to be with you for a moment in what we just heard, and stay with that for a moment in that energy of recognition, you could say. And I hope to see you next week with the next chapter that we're in. I saw we have just about 3 more meetings in this sequence, and so there's 3 more chapters that we're going to take a look at. And so hope to see you next week. Thank you for everything, and see you soon.